words. Oh,
Sorry.
what? That's okay. So for the recording, I was about to start clarifying what I meant last time when I was saying that it doesn't matter if you have the official definitions or not. So the essence of it is that when you're debating, you're not debating words, you're debating meanings, right? And so it's not worthwhile to get kind of caught up on like in I think typically in English we might say like, oh, that's just semantics, which is, I don't know, it's a tricky thing to say, but like when that's all that's happening, it's just that we're using different words in different ways. It doesn't matter terribly much, right? So for example, let's say that, so from the point of view of the Gelug school would assert that Buddha is impermanent, right? Now, some of the other schools, like Nyingma, I believe, would assert that Buddha is permanent. Okay, so all right, here's something for us to debate. Now, let's say that you're debating with somebody trying to show them that the Buddha is impermanent, but the way you're defining the word impermanent is changing from moment to moment. And the way they're defining the word impermanent is having an end to its continuum, like having a time when it will no longer exist, right? You're using different definitions of impermanent. Once you know how they're defining it, once you understand, okay, when you say impermanent, what do you mean? Oh, when you say impermanent, you mean that it has no ending to its continuum. Well, you can fling lots of consequences at them to make sure that they're comfortable with all of the implications of that. So like you would say, for example, okay, so impermanent means that it has an end. So take the subject, the mind stream, it follows that it is permanent then, right? And see if they're comfortable with that, right? Because that it has to be coherent within the way they're defining things. If they're comfortable with that, that's okay, because it's impossible to prove them wrong about a definition, because that's just not how definitions work. These are arbitrary sounds. You know, impermanent is an arbitrary set of sounds that we're connecting to that to some meaning or another. So if they want to connect the sound impermanent to the meaning of it ends, that's okay. So within the context of that debate, we can do that, right? And by the standards of the convention that they themselves are using, then it is fair to say that the Buddha is permanent, given what they mean by permanent, right? So does this mean that you can't prove to them that the Buddha is changing moment by moment? Of course, it doesn't mean that. You can absolutely prove to them that the Buddha is changing moment by moment, because that's about the fact. It's not about the word. You can prove to them that the word impermanent applies to the Buddha because they mean something else by it. But you can prove to them that the Buddha is changing moment by moment, and we can call it whatever we want to call it in the context of this debate, right? I'll ask if you guys have any questions in a second, but I'll say one more thing. Furthermore, another thing you can also prove to them, if you wish, is you can prove to them that that the way they're defining impermanent is different from the way that the Gelug school defines impermanent. You can prove that to them too, right? But that's a completely separate question. That's what I was trying to communicate. I don't know. I hope this might have been a little clearer. But do you guys have any questions about what I just said? Okay. Okay. All right. Good. I feel better. I felt like I had just made everything into a muddle last time. So I hope this is a little bit clearer. So then let me ask you guys where you guys are at, and what questions have been coming up or have been lingering. What do you feel is kind of standing in the way of you getting a flow of debate going? That might be too many questions. Or what if I say it this way? Is there anything at all that you'd like us to cover together before I send you off into breakout rooms? Okay. There's unanimity that the answer is yes, but maybe it's not so clear with what it is that we want to cover. Does anybody have anything in particular that they want to cover? Otherwise, I'll kind of take the lead. But
what I would find very helpful is to kind of go through a debate like together, so that we kind of write down what would we say after this, where would we go after certain things, because I was stuck last week when we went into breakout rooms, or we were stuck because I wasn't quite sure where to go with. I mean, I wasn't very comfortable with that particular topic, which kind of was a problem for me.
Sure.
If I know something about the topic, or I feel more comfortable debating it, and it's different, but still, I think overall I don't understand where one goes with it, so
sure. Let me ask you this to all of you. Do you guys think it would be helpful to go through a video recording of two people debating and to pause along the way with like some commentary or to ask questions? Would that be a useful thing for us to do? Oh, okay. We shall do that. We shall do that.
Also, to follow up on what Clara just said, I find that I'm very confused about the formatting, about when you say this and when you say that, and when you pose this and when you pose that. I mean, I've sort of got like a conceptual idea, but I don't really know how to put it into practice.
Yes. Well, hopefully then by going through this video together, that will help with that too. I'm just thinking, because there was one other thing that I was thinking to mention. I'm just thinking it makes sense to mention it now. No, I think I'll save it because I don't need to add more things yet. Give me a second. Yes.
Sorry, could I just add one more thing?
Yes.
Last week, I thought I had understood the roles of the defender and the challenger, but then last week I got more confused about that, because it seemed to kind of challenge what I thought was the case, which I thought it's the defender who proposes who has a view, and then the challenger helps them, either throws up certain objections to help them clarify their thinking or change their thinking. That's what I thought. But then last week it sounded different, and also because I think, if I can remember, it sounded like the challenger actually started the debate from what we were saying last week, which confused me completely. And also so
I got it. Well, so first of all, you're understanding everything you just said. You're correct. So whatever. Whatever is coming in that's confusing, that we need to clarify. But you are correct in your understanding. The point about the challenger being the one to start the debate, I think that's just a matter of like formality, of like the form, in principle, you can almost think of it as like the defender never speaks unless spoken to. Let's put it that way. Like it's almost like at least in courtroom dramas, I don't know, like you're in court, like you're not going to answer any questions unless the lawyer asks you, and then you're just going to give us a brief answer, like yes, no, like you don't want to say more than you need to say, because everything you say can and will be used against you in a court of debate, so it begins. So the formal debate begins with the challenger basically asking you to state your position, right? But they do it by just flinging a consequence and saying which way you're going to answer. Like let's say that I wanted to debate with you about whether the earth is round, right? So the first thing I would say is like, what's your thesis? Is the earth round? Yes or no? And then you'd say your thesis. But just the form of it is that I'd say, take the subject, the earth. It follows that it is round. And then if you say I accept, that's your thesis, that the earth is round. That's what I'm going to debate with you unsuccessfully. If I say take the subject, the earth, it follows that it is round, and you say why, right? And I say, then take the subject, the earth, it follows that it is not round, right? And then you're going to accept that. That's your root thesis. That's what I'm going to debate with you then. Do you understand what I'm saying?
I understand, yeah, but that confuses me as well, that why would if the challenge, I mean, the roles are the defender and the challenger, but it doesn't make sense to me that the challenger would begin the debate. And also it doesn't make sense to me that the challenger begins by saying something follows when nothing has been said before. Because that doesn't make sense to me at all. But also the roles, why would the challenger, so it's almost like the challenger is proposing the thesis.
Okay, so let me
from what you just said, yeah.
Let me address that. First of all, it follows that. That's a misnomer. I don't think it's a mistranslation. I think it's a misnomer. We keep saying it follows, but we kind of say that that just marks that what we're throwing at them is what's called a consequence rather than it's what's called a syllogism. When I say it follows that, really all that I'm saying is I'm not claiming this, but what do you say? Right? So we don't like, you're right that it's not, it would be incoherent if we thought that we're saying that it really follows from what you said. Sometimes it will, sometimes it won't.
But why would you start something by saying it follows? Because follows is a consequence, and there's nothing been said that it could be the consequence of.
Why would you start by saying that? Historical accident. For the same reason that I call this a phone. This is not a telephone. This is an omniscient computer that has a telephone app in it, which is one of the least used apps in it. So why do we call it it's a misnomer? It's not a telephone, but why do we call it a telephone? Then historical reasons, like just the way it developed, it just so happened to get stuck with that name, right? In a similar way, it's more a matter of historical accident or anything, that the terminology we use is it follows that. Just think of it follows that, or here's another one, wallpaper on our computer. On the monitor, wallpaper. There is no wall, there is no paper, right? Wallpaper at this point doesn't really mean paper on the wall. It's just the term that means that. In the same way, in Tibetan debate, it follows that. No longer means it follows that. It just means prasanga. Boom. Prasanga is the Sanskrit word for consequence. Does that make
yeah, but it's not
sense?
a consequence. I mean, in a way, do you know what I mean?
I do know what you mean.
It means it's a consequence, and the whole debate is based on showing the consequences, which is, so it's not just any old misnomer.
I think Jenna has an insight on that. Jenna?
I'd like to offer this, but maybe helpful, maybe not helpful. It says, if you're saying, do you agree that the subject dog, it follows that it's a mammal because the subject Snoopy, it's a mammal because it's a dog. So it's as if you're adding the words, do you agree that? But you drop them, like in English, we do that all the time. Like, we drop the first part, we drop the question part. Maybe in English, not so much. In other languages, we drop it more. But
but that's a good way of looking at it. It's like, you hungry? Right?
Yeah.
You hungry?
Yeah.
Right? The intonation is marking that it's a question, but if you just look at the words, it's like a statement, right? But we're just putting it out there to see what the other person will say. That's a really good point, Janet. Thank you. So it's like, you hungry? I'm or like, oh, you must have had a hard day. We're kind of putting it out there. The person can either say, yes, I did, or they can say, no, I didn't. Sometimes it's a way of asking a question that's just not phrased that way, right? And in a similar way, for reasons that go beyond the scope of right now, we use in debate, we use this terminology of, what are you going to say if I say that it follows the blah, blah, blah? What are you going to say if I say that it follows the blah, 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 right? Now, you're right that I am going to also, like, separate from the terminology, yes, the point is to show the other person consequences of what they're saying. You're right about that. But it's not that every time that I say the words, it follows that necessarily is a consequence of what they just said.
Right. But it's also not the case that the challenger actually holds that position. So the challenger is more like a provoker.
The reason you say it follows that, the reason you say that, whatever that means, is to make it crystal clear that I'm not saying this. I'm not taking any, I wash my hands of the whole thing. This is about you. You see?
Right. It's like the
technically, yeah. Technically, if I wanted to say, like, take the subject the earth, it follows that it's round. And you say, why? And suppose I said, take the subject the earth, it is flat. Technically, if I didn't say it follows that, that's idle speech. Right? Because it's just not true. I'm just saying something that's not true. In fact, in that case, it would be a lie on top of it. So
is it like we say it follows that, instead of putting the like we do in exam questions, the earth is flat, discuss kind of thing.
Yes,
like that.
yes, exactly. Like it follows that, just marks it as like, here's what I'm putting to you. I want to hear what you have to say. Like that. Yeah. Now, what we're going to put to them in the beginning is going to be pretty random. Sometimes it's going to be pretty random. Sometimes what we're going to put to them is actually a consequence of what they just said, but that's neither here nor there in terms of the terminology we're using, the verbiage, right? Let me just address, and I'll take other folks' comments or questions, but let me just address also what you said about why is it that the challenger is starting. So let's see if this helps. In practice, before you start the debate, you're going to have an informal conversation about, like, so what do you want to debate? Or somebody's going to say, like, oh, I think the earth is flat. And you're going to say, really? You think the earth is flat? Really? Okay, well, do you want to debate that? Okay, sure. And then at some point, you're going to formally start the debate. It's when you formally, when you start the debate, the formality is that the challenger starts by putting that consequence there. You see what I mean? That's just a matter of form. But I will say it's just a matter of form. And when you get the hang of the whole thing, it helps tremendously, because it makes everything consist. Like, there's one format that you use throughout. If we didn't do it this way, we'd have to switch formats after the beginning. Like the defender would have to start by making statements, and I would have to ask questions. And then at a certain point, we'd have to switch to, okay, now I'm taking over. It makes it easy to just say, okay, the way it goes is that the challenger says something, the defender answers. The challenger says, that's from beginning to end, right? So that there's method to the madness, I suppose. Dinesh?
Hi, Gus. I have a question. That is the accept part. Once you say I accept, that means the debate is over. We are accepting.
That means that what? I'm sorry?
The debate is over, or
no.
Okay.
No. You're going to be accepting things all over the place, left and right. I accept means that you don't need to prove that point to me. That point we're in agreement about. So if we're debating the earth is flat, and suppose I'm the defender and I'm sitting here, I'm like, yeah, the earth is flat. What are you going to do about it, right? I'm the defender. And then suppose somebody says, take the subject, the earth, it follows that it is not round. I'll say, yeah, I accept, like I agree with that. The earth is not round, right? They'll say, take the subject, the earth, it follows that it is not spherical because it is not round. Yeah, I accept it's not spherical. The debate isn't over. I'm not saying anything that I even disagree with, right? And let's say that along the way, like you say, take the subject, the moon, it follows that it is flat. Let's say, yeah, I accept the moon is flat, right? And you say, no, take the subject, the moon, it follows that it is not flat because you can see that it is spherical. Now, I don't know if that's true or not, but let's say that I'm convinced by that. I think, oh crap, that's true. I thought that the moon was flat, but now I say the moon is not flat. So I'll say, okay, I accept that the moon is not flat. At this point, I'm contradicting something I said earlier. Earlier I said the moon is flat, and I'm saying I accept that the moon is not flat. So the challenger is going to say, sa. All that means is let it be marked that you're reversing your position on that point. But I still haven't reversed my position on the earth is flat. The debate is going to keep going until I accept, specifically, I accept that the earth is not flat. When I accept that the earth is not flat, that's when the debate is over. They're going to say, stop, stop, stop. You see what I mean? Does that make sense?
I have like same thing, like suppose if you start like earth is not flat. No, if I start like earth is flat and the defender says why?
I just couldn't hear you. Could you say that one more time? I'm sorry.
Suppose if I start a debate like earth is
flat,
and the other person says why, then if I change the earth is not flat, like just if I say that, then he will be responding, I accept, isn't it? I see this thing happen many times. So whenever we start with one position, and if I add at or anything negative, then the opponent is you will be accepting our position, isn't it? So
yes, the moment the defender accepts the opposite of their root thesis, the debate is over. So I mean, in principle, like if the person wasn't thinking clearly, it could happen in a second, in principle, and then that debate is over.
But he doesn't have much choice. Suppose if I say earth is not flat, and if I change it to earth is flat, either he has to accept any one of this position, isn't it? If I say one positive and one negative, like if I say earth is flat, the other person says why. If I change it to earth is not flat, then he has to accept it because he said why. He was not accepting.
I think I understand what you're saying.
Like I see this many times here. Like initially we start with one position, he immediately switch to not. So
I get what you're saying.
Then you say one means like if you give two choices, yes or no, either he has to accept ultimately. So what is the point of this debate? Like many times it happens here. Like initially we say something and we switch to not same thing. So either you have to accept first one or second one.
Yes.
Then debate stops there, but it is not the actual debate. Like
no.
That's the opposite. Not... Yes, that's that is my question. Like yes,
I understand now. I think no. So here's the idea. What the challenger says doesn't matter. The challenger can say it follows that the earth is flat, it follows that the earth is not flat, it follows that it is flat, it follows that it's both flat and not flat. Like, that's never going to end the debate. The challenger is just saying things, right? What matters is what is the root thesis that the defender is maintaining, right? There are going to be other things that they maintain along the way. They can change their mind and so forth. The question is, what is the root thesis that the defender is maintaining? So if let's say we haven't started debating yet, right? And I'm the challenger and I come and I say, take the subject, the earth, it follows that it's flat, right? And you can say why. You haven't accepted anything yet. There's no root thesis yet, right? So the game hasn't even started. So you say why. So now I'll say, okay, in that case, take the subject, the earth, it follows that it's not flat. So now you'll accept that. Now we have the root thesis. The root thesis is the first thing that the defender accepts. That's the root thesis. And then you start the game, then you start reckoning. And then it ends if the person then takes that back. Does that answer?
Yes, yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Okay, thank
Okay.
you.
Now, you're welcome. For the sake of complete transparency, I'll just point out that that's typically how it goes. Sometimes the root thesis won't be the very, very first thing the person accepts, because the first thing the person accepts will be just a formality sometimes. It's like the first thing of substance that the person accepts, you know? So for example, like I could say, take the subject, you know, impermanent. It follows that you can't posit a definition of it. I'm saying that just to get things rolling. Now you'll say, why? It follows that you can't posit a definition of it. I accept, right? Then posit the definition of it, you know? Well, no, actually, that's not a good example. That's not a good example. Sorry, it doesn't matter. I don't want to get lost in the weeds, but that's the idea. The idea is that the first thing of substance that the person says, yes, I accept this. That's what we're locking in. That's our root thesis, and that's what the debate is going to be about. Jenna, did you have?
Well, when you asked us to compare organic and living, you were just asking us to go through one of those scripts, 3 possibilities or 4 possibilities, like one of those. Or you were asking us to do it with consequences.
My intention was that second thing. I'm sorry that I didn't make it clear.
That's what I thought. And so then we didn't know how to do it. So can you like?
Yes, yes, yes. Okay. Let me think for a second. Let me see if I can think of a different example.
Because there were 2 things. So one of them should be like the because, and one of them the reason, and one of them should be the pervasion. Was that the intention? Like the way the challenger sets it up is that.
Well, here, how about this? Let's do this. Let's see how this goes, Jenna. So let's you and I, if you're willing, let's you and I try this out. I'll be the challenger, you be the defender. Okay. So if we were doing this formally, we would go, D. That's how you start. The challenger just says, subject just measure should debated. Take the subject, the 2, furniture and something you sit on. Furniture and something you sit on. It follows that you can't posit how they compare.
Why?
It follows that you can posit how they compare.
Except.
Posit. How do they compare? So we're talking
talking.
furniture and something you can sit on.
It follows that there are, I'll just guess because I'm not sure. 3 possibilities.
3 possibilities, right? Now, I don't care. I don't know, but I'm going to say it follows that it's not 3 possibilities. Okay. Now, that's just to tease you. Now I'm going to say, if it's 3 possibilities, posit something that is both furniture and something you sit on.
A chair.
A chair.
Take a chair. It follows. I have to say the whole thing.
No. You say the subject, a chair.
Subject, a chair.
Okay. The subject, a chair. So, take the subject, a chair is furniture.
What did you say? The subject, a chair?
Oh, can you not hear? Oh,
No, I broke up something. I didn't hear.
can you hear me now?
Just say it again.
Yeah. Take the subject, a chair. It follows that it is furniture.
Except.
Take the subject, a chair. It follows that it is something you sit on.
Except.
Okay. Now, which way does the pervasion go between furniture and something you sit on?
Maybe there's 4 possibilities. It follows that the pervasion goes that
you don't say
furniture is not necessarily something you can sit on, but whatever you can sit on is not necessarily furniture either. So that would be 4 possibilities.
So you've seen your mistake. You've seen your mistake, right? But pretend you hadn't, right?
So it follows that whatever you can sit on is furniture, is necessarily furniture.
Okay, but whatever is furniture is not necessarily something you can sit on, right? So now I would say, if we were really debating this, right, I would say, you just said it, but I'm going to say it again just to mark it. It follows that whatever you can sit on is necessarily furniture.
I accept.
Take the subject, a horse. It follows that it is furniture because it is something you can sit on.
Why?
Well, I gave you the reason, right?
Because it's something that you can sit on. So what do I say to that?
You can either say the reason is not
Oh,
established.
the reason is not, wait a minute, so say that again, the subject, a horse?
Subject, a horse. It follows that it is furniture because it is something you can sit on.
There's no pervasion.
It follows that whatever is something you can sit on is not necessarily furniture.
Except. What do I say to that?
Yeah,
I
you're
say
right.
accept.
I accept, yeah. I mean, if you accept, but
Well, that kind of statement is not this or that. That you're just saying it follows that this is not necessarily that. So I say accept to that, or why?
Yeah, you can say accept. I accept, yeah. So I accept. So now I say it's sa, because now you've contradicted something you said a minute ago, right? So now I'm going to say, take the subject, the two, furniture and something you sit on. It follows that between them, there are not three possibilities.
Accept.
Sa, you see? And in fact, since that was the thing that you had actually claimed, that was your root thesis, I'd actually say sa, sa, sa. This, I've proven to you that the way you thought they compare, that's not how they compare, right?
Yeah.
Now, so that debate is finished, like score one for me, right? But I would keep going and I would say, take the subject, the two, furniture and something you can sit on. It follows that you can't posit how they compare. I'm starting over, basically.
Why?
It follows that you can't posit how they compare.
Accept, I accept.
Posit.
So I have a question. When you say why, you don't really give a reason. You just flip your premise.
Why just,
I mean, the why doesn't really mean tell me, doesn't it mean explain?
Why means why means I'm not committing myself to that. Right? It's like, take the subject, a chair follows that it is furniture. Why means I'm not saying that. I'm not committing to that, you know, like so now I, as the challenger, in response to that, I have two options. I can either give you a reason to get you to commit to that, right, in the hopes of getting you to commit to that, or I can say, well, if you don't commit to that, then you're going to commit to this. Like, you have to commit to one or the other for the sake of the debate, right? Which is why we can debate things that we're not experts in. We can debate things that we're not experts in because we're just exploring. We're just kind of figuring it out, you know? So, you know, like, let's say somebody said to me, hey, Gus, take the subject, a hot dog. It follows that it's a sandwich. I have no clue. I have no clue. So for this to work as a debate, I'm going to pick one and see what happens. We say, okay, let's see. Like, okay, I accept, you know, and then let's see how that goes, right? Or I could go the other way and say, why? It's like, okay, false that it's not. Okay, I accept. Let's see how that goes. You see? That's the idea. That's the idea. Yeah. So the scripts that we saw for the comparison of phenomena, basically you would go exactly through that script line by line if the person made no mistakes. You know, if the defender had made no mistakes, then the debate would pretty much look like that script. But the defender is going to make mistakes because, you know, otherwise we wouldn't need debate, you know. So when the defender makes a mistake, you're going to kind of catch them out with a consequence. Right? Like, again, you're put on the spot. I'm like, how do these two things compare? Ha ha ha. Like, and you're like, okay, there's three possibilities. Like, okay, which way does the pervasion go? There's a pervasion. It follows that whatever you can sit on is necessarily furniture. Aha. It follows that a horse is furniture. And you're like, okay, no. So now we're going to try again. You see? It makes thought digital. Like at any point, you can branch out in only two ways, you know, and then you can trace your way back and you can try a different path until you land on the path that is correct. Yeah, Jenna?
And when Tibetan children learn, they start with color?
Yeah, the first couple of debates, they're kind of like absurd, you know, because they're only intended to show the format, you know. So the first debate that children learn is somebody comes to you, like the defender, accept, you know, you go to the defender, you say, it follows that whatever is a color is necessarily red. And the defender says, I accept. Nobody would accept that, not even a child, right? But just to show the format, we're going to start with something that's clearly wrong, just to see. And then you're going to say, okay, you accept that whatever is a color is necessarily red. Take the subject, the color of a white shell. It follows that it is red because it is a color. You see what you see? And then and they have like a really like astonishingly unintelligent defender for that very first example, right? Because they give all the wrong answers just so you can learn the format. And so the defender says, I accept that the color of a white shell is red, right? And say, okay, take the subject, the color of a white shell. It follows that it is not red because it is white, right? And they're going to say, they're going to say, the reason is not established. And so you're going to say, take the subject, the color of a white shell. It follows that it is white because it is one with the color of a white shell. And then finally, they're going to go, oh, I accept, right? You're going to say, take the subject, the color of a white shell. It follows that it is white. I accept. Sa. Take the subject, the color of a white shell. It follows that it is not red because it is white. You say, I accept. Sa. Right? So just kind of thinking back to that, accept that the color of a white shell, it is not red. Take the subject, the color of a white shell. It follows that it is a color, but it is not red. I accept. It follows that it is not the case that whatever is a color is necessarily red. I accept. Sa, sa, sa.
So this whole text is here. It's in this little book by Daniel Perdue.
Yes.
What is it? What does it say? Tibetan Buddhist. What is it?
If I'm not mistaken, I think that's the little book that he then kind of expanded on to make the big thick book, if I'm not mistaken.
So if you were to translate this for Western children, would you pick the same little thing? What would you pick?
I don't know. I haven't given it tremendous amounts of thought, but the first thought that comes to my mind would be something like cat and animal or something like that. You know, same debate. Take the subject, or I would say, yeah, the same debate. Yeah. It follows that whatever is an animal is necessarily a cat. I accept, right? Take the subject, a dog. It follows that it is a cat because it is an animal. The reason is not established. Take the subject, a dog. It follows that it is an animal because it is an animal that goes woof, woof. I accept. Sa. Take the subject, a dog. It follows that it is a cat because it is an animal. They would say, I accept. Take the subject, a dog. It follows that it is not a cat because of not being an animal that goes meow. Something, I mean, I would do better than that, you know, but like, and then I accept. Sa. Take the subject, the dog. It follows that it is an animal that is not a cat. I accept. follows that there is something that is, it follows that it is not necessarily, sorry, it follows that it is not the case that whatever is an animal is necessarily a cat. I accept. Sa, sa, sa. Right? Yeah, yeah. Tell you what, let's go through this video then, so you guys can kind of see this in action. So I happen to have, until very recently, I didn't have access to such a video. I happen to have access to a video that I believe to be pretty representative in its way, you know, like it kind of has the format all there, and I'm in it. So Venerable Donio, who's the monk who's been helping me out, we got to meet, and so we filmed this this debate so that he'll post it on YouTube after he's edited it. You know, so it's not posted yet, but I have the raw footage, so I can show you guys how it goes. Now, one thing I'll say is that just a little, oh, I feel like I keep freezing. I'm sorry, I don't know why. But just a little bit, Venerable Donyo is saying more than normally we would say in debate, just to make it clear to the people watching the video, right? He's spelling things out a little bit more than we would, like a little bit more informally, like in between consequences. But aside from that, this is my understanding of how a debate would actually work. So let's see if we can do this. Oh, Sheila, could you give me permission to share my screen?
Okay.
Oh no, here's an interesting question. Let me think about it for 1 second. I think it's okay. Okay. Thank you. Let me. Oh wait, let me make sure that let me stop that, because I think I forgot to tell it that you can share sound too. Let me try that again. Share screen. Share sound. Optimize for video clip. And wait, where did it go now? Oh, how weird. Oh, here. Oh. Oh my God, you're kidding me. It says that I have to update Zoom to be able to share sound. Oh my gosh, you're kidding
You
me.
should just be able to hear it on your audio. As soon as you start the video, we should.
Yeah? Okay, then let me try that one last time. Share screen.
Just turn on the video and we'll tell you if we hear it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Do you hear it?
Okay, so
Oh, I'm getting mixed responses. Some people are saying they hear it. Some people are saying they don't. Hold on a second.
It's not loud. You can turn it up. Turn up your
Let me see if I can turn it up more.
sound.
I think it's turned up as high as it will go.
our debate, let's take a look at the concept of infinity. Okay, so are you familiar with the concept of infinity? Beliefs. We'll find out. Okay. Enough to say something about it. Yes. So, well, so I won't define it for you, but I'll just, thinking about the primary goal within Buddhist practice to liberate, benefit, bring happiness, and remove suffering from infinite sentient beings, from all sentient beings. So sometimes,
I just want to check in one more time. Can you guys still, can you hear it? Is it good enough? Okay. All of this so far, we haven't started debating yet. This is us having an informal conversation.
people say they're infinite. So I'll ask you to take the subject, sentient beings, living beings, follow that they are infinite. I accept. Okay, and so take the subject, sentient beings, follow that they're not only infinite, but also countless. I accept. Okay, so it follows that if it is countless, then it's necessarily infinite. Why?
So here, Venerable Donya uses a slightly different phrasing than we're using. For statements of pervasion, the way we're learning is whatever is countless is necessarily infinite. But the way Venerable Donya was saying it is, if it is countless, then it is infinite. It means the same thing, but he's just phrasing it differently. So the consequence he just flung at me was, it follows that if it is countless, then it is necessarily infinite. And I said, why?
Why? Oh, okay, so follow that if it is countless, it is not necessarily infinite. I accept. And then let's look at those two, okay? So can you posit the difference between countless and infinite in terms of 3 joints, 4 joints, equivalence, and contradiction?
So again, this is just a translation thing. This is the way we're learning is, can you posit how those two compare, right? That all of that was, so can you posit how those two compare?
I accept. Okay, which of those is it? It's 3 joints. 3 joints.
3
So
possibilities.
it's 3 joints, and which pervades which? If it is infinite, then it is necessarily countless. But if it's countless, it's not necessarily infinite. Already answered that. Okay, so it follows that if it is so we already went through an example which you accepted to be both infinite and countless. Yes. Okay?
That is like extra commentary for the video, right?
That's a joint which is both of those two. Yeah. So that was living beings. Then let's see, it follows that so if it is countless, it is not necessarily infinite. So follows you can give an example. Makes sense. Okay, positive example. Take the subject, the number of eons needed to become enlightened. Take the subject, the number of eons necessary to become enlightened. Okay, it follows that it is countless. Except, I see. So what does it mean, by the way, to become enlightened? How you can describe briefly what it means to become enlightened? I am going to accept. Okay, under the brief description or definition of becoming enlightened. Take the subject, having perfected all good qualities and eliminated all limitations, and thereby having become omniscient.
I don't know off the top of my head the official definition of enlightenment, to my great embarrassment, right? You'd think I would. It's not a very central thing or anything. So what I'm doing is I'm just giving my best guess as how like what do I think it means? Like, how would I define it off the top of my head, right? If I say that I can't, that's basically saying I have no idea what I'm talking about. You know, like if I can't explain what I mean by it, then I'm just not saying anything. So I have to explain what I have in mind when I say it, right? So that's what I said.
Okay. So that's possible for a human to do. Take the subject, the state of having, or the condition of having eliminated all, how'd you say it? All, and having, I forget how I said, maximize all good qualities and eliminated all limitations. Okay. Eliminated all limitations, having become omniscient. So that is something that the living being can do. Makes sense. Okay, so take that subject, that follows that it takes a countless number of eons to do that. I accept. But take the subject, the number of eons required to attain that kind of enlightenment, it follows it is countless because it takes 3 times the countless set of eons to become enlightened. 3 times the countless set of eons. Okay, so take the subject that countless, one of those countless sets of eons, which it takes to become enlightened, follows that it is uncountable. Let's see why. Because it's uncountable because it's countless. There is no pervasion. It follows if it is countless, it is not necessarily uncountable. Makes sense. So it follows it is countable. I accept. So it follows it has a count. Accept. So it follows it is count having. So it follows it is not countless. Why? Because it is countable. There is no provisioning. Okay. Countless, it takes on the countless. It follows it is not, follows that it is not the direct negation of having count. I accept. Okay, take the subject. Limitless, it follows it is not the direct negation of having a limit. Why? So it follows that if it exists, it lists is necessarily the direct negation of having it. Why? Okay, so take the subject countless. It follows it is not the direct negation of having a count because it refers to a finite number that a human being can't count up to. Okay, so it follows there exists a finite number which a human being cannot count up to. And it follows that a human being cannot count up to it. So posit follows if it is a number, it is necessarily finite. Why? How does that make sense? Take the subject of transfinite number. Take the subject of transfinite number. Follows it as a number. Except the number because. One side or something. No, wait. They probably have really good reasons. You don't know. The transfinite number is a number because of being a cardinal number. Okay. So if follows, you can posit the definition of. I'll take the subject finite number. It follows it has a definition. Finite number? Yeah, I accept. Take the subject.
Before we continue, does anybody have any questions so far? Are you guys kind of following along? More or less?
It's a little hard to hear.
Not.
And isn't really good.
Yeah. Is it worthwhile to continue, or would it be better to stop here and discuss? Then let's stop here and discuss. Okay. I figure out of politeness, people might not say that, but nobody would say the opposite out of politeness, so that's okay. So let me ask you guys, like, anything like stand out, anything make more sense, make less sense? Maybe if I can figure out how to fix the sound for next time, we can see another part or something like that. But did anybody get a sense, like, well, let me even put it this way. Did anybody get a sense of what was going on even? like a little bit, yeah. Does anybody want to take a stab at it? Just reading comprehension, right? Like, what was the root thesis? Let's start with that. What was the root thesis that I had accepted?
You accepted that countless and infinite were not the same, is what you said.
Good guess. That wasn't the root thesis. That was like a branch of the debate, right? Now, there was a lot going on, you know, with and especially like with the sound and all the different verbiage and the colors and everything. So let me tell you, the root thesis, the very first thing he said is, take the subject sentient beings, it follows that they are infinite. And I accepted. That's the root thesis. So I took the stance that there's like an infinite number, so to speak, of sentient beings. It's not a limited amount, however huge, right? And so from there, then Bodonio started saying, I forget exactly where he had it first, but very early on, he said, it follows that if it's countless, then it's necessarily infinite. And I said, why? Right? He said, well, how do the two compare? Countless and infinite. And he said, between them, there are three possibilities. So which way does the pervasion go? I said, if it's infinite, it's necessarily countless. But if it's countless, it's not necessarily infinite. Right? So what we're doing is we're trying to understand, he's trying to help me understand, what do I mean by infinite? You know, do I mean countless? Do I mean something else? Right? That's why we're kind of going off in that direction. Right? So then he said, posit an example. It follows that you can posit an example of something that is countless but not infinite. I accept. Posit an example. Well, the subject, the number of eons it takes for somebody to become enlightened, right? He said, okay, take the subject, the number of eons it takes for somebody to become enlightened, it follows that it is countless. Yes, that's kind of what I just said. It is countless because, I said, well, because it's three countless eons. It's three sets of countless eons, right? So it's 3 times countless, so it's countless, right? So again, I can't remember blow by blow, but I think at some point he said, take the subject countless, it follows that you can posit a definition of it. He said, I accept. He said, posit the definition, and he said, something that cannot be counted by a human being. You see? So like we're kind of untangling the whole thing, you know, like because to prove to me that I'm wrong and saying that there's an infinite number of beings, first I have to be very clear on what does that even mean? What does it mean for it to be infinite? You know? And so he's helping me to kind of piece all of that out. And then at a certain point, I forget it's, excuse me, like where it fit in exactly, but he asked me, he said, it follows that if it's a number, then it's necessarily finite. And I said, why? He said, oh, it follows that there's something that is a number, but is not finite. I accept. He said, posit an example. And now I'm panicking. And I said, take the subject, a transfinite number. And he says, okay, so take the subject, a transfinite number, like whatever that is. It follows that it's a number. I accept. And he said, it's a number because I have no idea, right? So I like jokingly, like outside of like the formality of it, because I heard somebody say so, you know, and he laughed and he teased me about that. But then I came up with like a formal answer, as I said, because it's a cardinal number, right? Now, I'll be honest with you. I'm not sure if that's correct. I'm not sure if that's correct, right? But I was just going by the bits and pieces that I had in my understanding, and I was putting something out there for him to help me see if I was mistaken. You see what I mean? I'm not, so I'm not going to lie. I'm not going to do anything in bad faith. Like if I think that something isn't so, I'm not going to say it is so. But like if I have like a vague sense, I'm going to try something out. I'm going to say it to see where it goes, right? I think that's as far as we had gotten, or thereabouts. So at some point, spoiler alert, in the debate, Venerable Donyo, I think, if I'm not mistaken, I think he kind of feels satisfied that I have a clear understanding of what I mean by infinite, right? And then he goes on to say, okay, so when you say this is infinite, now this is what you're saying. It follows that, take the subject sentient beings, it followed that they are infinite in the sense that you mean. I accept, right? And then he's going to give me consequences of that. I think at some point he, if I'm not mistaken, he might even ask me like to define what do I mean by sentient being, you know, like he wants to make sure I'm very clear on everything I'm saying. Then he's going to try to show me why I'm wrong. Does that make sense? Okay.
So the challenger can sort of take this debate sort of anywhere they want. I mean, they can sort of throw out another question or another challenge or whatever.
Exactly. They can go anywhere they like. They have perfect freedom to move wherever they want, in their effort to try to get me to take back what I said in the beginning. Like what Venerable Donyo is trying to get me to do is he's trying to get me to say, I accept that sentient beings are not infinite. That's what he's trying to get me to do, right? He can go about it whatever way he thinks might work.
So what was
The challenger's job is to disprove the defender?
The challenger's job is to, well, the challenger's job in terms of the motivation is to help the defender understand things more clearly. The challenger's job in terms of the strategy for how to do that is to try their best to see if they can get the defender to accept the opposite of their root thesis. That's how you'll get the person to understand it more clearly. They're playing devil's advocate, so to speak. Yeah. Brett?
Out of curiosity, did you know the topic beforehand? Were you able to kind of get some definitions in mind and things like that?
Well, yes to the first part, no to the second part. We kind of agreed that this is what we were going to debate, you know, but I didn't kind of like bone up for it or anything. Like I didn't study the definitions or anything like that. Which I definitely would have done if this were going to be like a formal debate in front of like 100 people, just out of sheer, you know, pride, you know. But the reason we picked this was that this is a position that I hold. I think that sentient beings are infinite. I think that, and I know that in Buddhism there's debate. There's not like a settled answer one way or the other, right? So I never really had a chance to like really get into it with anybody. So when we were talking about, oh, what could we do as a topic for the video? I said, well, here's a weird position that I have that I've never really heard like a counter argument to. So that's how it came about. But if you think about it, if I believe that, if that's what I believe, there's some reason that I believe that. You know what I mean? There's something behind that. And so I do have that to stand on, so to speak. And again, the goal is to see if that can be demolished or if that really holds up. And then, by the way, when we finished, we stopped after a while, just for the sake of the time for the video. We didn't finish the debate, but I very informally after we stopped filming, we were just kind of standing there talking. And I said, I turned it around on him. I said, take the subject sentient beings, it follows that they are not infinite. And he accepted. And then I kind of gave him my consequences to show him why I thought they were. See what I mean? We could have done that formally too. We could have switched places and done that. Okay. Let's try another debate together, and then we'll do breakout rooms. Let me think for just 1 second. Who wants to volunteer to be a defender?
What's the topic?
Oh, no, you have to jump in first. When I was a kid in Brazil, we had this like plebiscite, like we had this general election that everybody voted on, whether we wanted to keep the presidential system, whether we wanted to change to a parliamentary system, or whether we wanted to go back to being an empire. Okay, can you believe this? It really happened. I was there. I witnessed it. And so, of course, and so there was like debates on TV in advance of the elections and everything. And one question that everybody had was like, well, who would be the emperor? You know? And they said, well, we can't tell you that. Like, you have to decide first. You know, which, and to be fair, I guess, if you're going to do it, I guess you have to do it that way. Otherwise, you're voting for a person, not an idea. But that didn't get too many votes. So who wants to volunteer without knowing who the emperor is? All right, Dinesh, thank you. So, Dinesh, let me think, how much do I want to say? Now, you get full credit. I'm going to put you on the spot, right? You're going to be doing us all a service by volunteering, right? There's no expectation that you'll know the answers to this or anything like that. Again, if you did, really, there wouldn't be any even need to debate. But we'll just see what happens, okay? But let's try our best to keep this within the format this time, just so that we can all kind of get a sense of how it works, right? So, yes. And by the way, one thing that I also meant to clarify, the defender, I'm saying this to everybody, the defender never gets to say it follows that. That is not a privilege that the defender has. Everything the defender says is on the record as their position, right? I say it follows that, meaning I'm not saying this, like, you know, I'm just putting it out there. The defender's like, yes, I accept, let the record show, or no, you know, whatever. Okay. So take the subject karma. It follows, it follows that it is permanent.
Why?
Take the subject karma, it follows that it is not permanent.
I accept.
Take the subject karma, it follows that it is impermanent.
I accept.
Okay. So that's, let that be your root thesis, right? I'm just marking that. The root thesis here is karma is impermanent. Okay. Take the subject impermanent. It follows you can define it.
Impermanent. You need the definition of impermanence? Okay. So
wait. Point of order. It follows that you can define it. You're either going to say I accept, or you're going to say why.
Accept.
Good.
Yes.
Good. Now I'm going to say, so now posit the definition of impermanent. Now you can say it.
The results which is not permanent, like the results of any action which is not permanent.
The results of any action which is not permanent.
Not always, yes. Not always permanent.
The results.
Sometimes it is permanent, sometimes it is not permanent.
Let me try one more time. Posit the definition of impermanent. I just want to make sure I get you right. The definition of impermanent.
results are not permanent.
Okay. So the subject, results that are not permanent.
Mhm.
Okay. So I would say, take the subject, results that are not permanent. It follows that it is the definition of impermanent.
Accept.
Take the subject, causes that are not permanent. It follows that they are not impermanent.
Causes. No, could you repeat that, please? What? Causes?
Causes that are not permanent. Causes that are impermanent. It follows that they are not impermanent.
Causes are not permanent. I accept.
It
I have to note it down. I think I am. Mhm.
What's that?
Yes, accept.
Okay. Take the subject, causes that are not permanent. So you accepted that causes that are not permanent are not impermanent. That's what you accepted. Take the subject, causes that are not permanent. It follows that they are impermanent because they exist and they are not permanent.
I accept.
Sa.
Uh-oh.
Take the
Yes.
subject, causes that are not permanent. It follows that they are impermanent.
I think I have to note it down somewhere because the negatives causes which are
Causes that are not permanent. It follows that they are impermanent.
why?
It follows that they are not impermanent.
Yes, accept.
It follows that they are permanent
Why?
because they are not impermanent and they exist.
But that's what I had to ask the first time itself. If we say something and if we add not, then we are forced to accept the position, isn't it? But anything, if we say yes, if we say something, some subject, that's what I asked, same thing like, earth is flat, earth is not, earth is flat. If I say ask why, then if I say earth is not flat, then I have to accept it, isn't it? But that accepting means, that doesn't mean I am accepting the original position. That is what we are doing it here also. If we are saying something which I say why, then next sentence, if we say negative to that, then I have to accept it. That doesn't mean I am accepting the original one.
That doesn't mean that doesn't touch the root thesis, right? It's a
This is what happening. That is what happening here, isn't it? That is what happened here. Like if you said permanent, I said why, then you added not permanent, then I have to accept it. That doesn't mean
Yes, exactly. Exactly. So we start off at a branch. At the very beginning, there's a branch. I say blah 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 blah. So you have two ways that you can go. You pick one way. That now is the root thesis, right? So from here, it's going to branch off again.
Repeat that, you froze during part of it, just that last thing.
I don't know what's happening with my technology. I'm sorry. Here's the root thesis. Then we're going to branch off. You're going to have to pick one of these ways. So you pick this way, it's going to branch off. You have to pick one of these ways. Every point you have to pick away, but you'll only lose if you deny the root thesis. So if we're over here and you pick this way and then you see you're wrong, you can pick that way, no problem. Right? Okay. We want to be able to explore all logical possibilities. Right? Okay.
Yes,
thank you very much. Let's try with somebody else.
Yes.
Who else? Give this a shot. Everybody's gonna have to go eventually, so we might as well get it over with. All right, Andrew. Take this. We'll start over. I want you guys to see different ways that this can go. Take the subject, karma. It follows that it is permanent.
Why?
It follows that it is not permanent.
I accept.
It follows that it is impermanent.
I accept.
Okay, beautiful. Let that be your root thesis now, right? Karma is
impermanent.
So that, now we've established that's the root thesis. That's what we're going to try to work out. Take the subject, I'm going to go about it in a similar way, right? Take the subject impermanent. It follows that you can posit a definition of it.
I accept.
Posit.
Impermanent is momentary changing.
Momentary changing. Okay, take the subject momentary changing. It follows that it is the definition of impermanent.
I accept.
Take the subject karma. It follows that it is momentary changing.
I accept.
Now,
yes, I accept.
you're good. You're good. Okay. So now what I'm commentary, what I'm going to do now is, to me, it seems like Andrew has a handle on that side of things. So I'm going to go back and I'm going to try a totally different tack. Okay. Take the subject karma. It follows that you can posit a definition of it.
I accept.
Posit.
The law of cause and effect.
The law of cause and effect. Take the subject, the law of cause and effect. It follows that it is karma.
I accept.
Take the subject, the law of cause and effect. Take this. So it follows that whatever is a subtype of the law of cause and effect necessarily is a subtype of karma.
I accept.
Okay. Take the subject, the interaction between two magnets. It follows that it is a subtype of karma because it is a subtype of the cause of the law of cause and effect.
I accept.
Okay. So just to be clear, so I'm gonna repeat myself, but just to make very clear. Take the subject, the interaction between two magnets. It follows that it is a subtype of karma.
I accept.
Okay. Take the subject, the interaction between two magnets. It follows that it ripens into happiness, suffering, or neutral feeling because it is karma.
Why? I know
Because
you said because, so I can't do a why, can I? I worked out what my mistake is. Sorry, can you please repeat that?
Take the subject. Oh, see, now I don't remember what I said.
Magnets.
The interaction between two magnets. It follows that, yes, it follows that it ripens into happiness, unhappiness, or neutral because it is karma.
The reason is not established.
Take the subject, the interaction between two magnets. It follows that it is not karma.
I accept.
Sa. Take the subject, the interaction between two magnets. It follows that it is karma because it is a subset of karma.
Why?
Take the subject, the interaction between two magnets. It follows that it is not a subset of karma.
I accept.
Sa. Take the subject, the interaction between two magnets. It follows that it is a subset of karma because it is a subset of the law of cause and effect.
Why?
Take the subject, the interaction between two magnets. It follows that it is not a subset of the law of cause and effect.
I accept.
Sa. Take the subject, the interaction between two magnets. It follows that it is a subset of the law of cause and effect because of being an interaction.
I accept.
So take the subject, the interaction between two magnets. It follows that it is a subset of the law of cause and effect.
I accept.
Ka. Take the subject, the interaction between two magnets. It follows that it is a subset of karma because it is a subset of the law of cause and effect.
Why?
I just said why. So you want to say the reason?
Yeah, the reason is not established.
The subject, the interaction between two magnets. It follows that it is not a subset of the law of cause and effect.
I accept.
Okay. Sa. Now, here's what I'm going to say. Take the subject, the interaction between two magnets. It follows that either it is a subset of the law of cause and effect, or it is not a subset of the law of cause and effect.
don't know how I would answer that. Either it is or it is not. So I would literally say, well, it is a subset of the cause and effect.
You would say I accept, right? I accept that either it is or it's
Oh, yeah,
not.
either, yeah, yes, I accept, yeah.
Now I'm going to say posit which one it is.
The interaction of two magnets is a subset of the law of cause and effect.
Okay, so now here very clearly, right? So take the subject, the interaction between two magnets. It follows that it is a subset of the law of cause and effect.
I accept.
Okay, let the record show, okay? Okay, take the subject, the interaction between two magnets. It follows that it is a subset of karma because it is a subset of the interaction of cause and effect. You have asserted that the reason is established.
Yeah, so the reason is not established.
So now if you realize that if you say that, you're contradicting yourself. Right? Okay. To take the subject, the interaction between two magnets, it follows that it is not a subset of the law of cause and effect.
I accept.
Stop. Okay. So let me pause here for a second. Let me ask you, Andrew, like, what's your understanding of where we're at? Like, what's your
I realize it's actually really interesting because that genuinely is how, if someone asked me to explain the karma, I would genuinely have said the law of cause and effect. But now, having gone through that, I realize that's not the case because magnets, there's cause and effect, but that's not karma. So it's fascinating. I think that's just...
Gods are triumphant. The gods are triumphant, right? You guys know the Prasangika school? There's many differences between Svatantrika, Prasangika. There's many differences between them, but the one that gives them the name, like the etymological reason that they're called Prasangika, is exactly this. Like you just proved the Prasangika school. I'm joking, but the Prasangika school says that you can help somebody understand the truth just by showing them a consequence of their mistake, right? I never said anything to Andrew just now. I never said your definition of karma, that's not what karma is. I never said that. Andrew realized that all on his own because of the consequences that I flung, right? That's what Prasangika says. Svatantrika says, no, first you have to give all the consequences, and then on top of that, you have to prove the original point too, right? Anyway, that's just a little fun aside, right? That's the power of debate, right? That's the power of debate. Does any brave soul want to posit a definition of karma to debate? All right, let's do it, Brad. So, different debate now, okay? Starting all over. Take the subject karma. It follows you can posit the definition of it.
I accept.
Posit.
Karma is a type of causality that...
Oh, I think somebody's cheating, but okay.
I was trying to remember the karma discovering Buddhism session from earlier this week.
Parenthetically, like just for the record, in a Tibetan courtyard, debate courtyard, this wouldn't fly. What we would say is like, you have your knowledge in a box, right? We're not in a courtyard. It flies. Go for it.
A type of causality that dictates our mind moving to a new object.
Ooh, okay. This is going to be great because I know who you got that from, but okay. Take the subject karma. Take the subject, a type of causality that dictates what our mind moves toward. It follows that is the definition of karma.
I accept.
Let me think about this for 1 second. This is good. it follows that whatever is the type of causality that dictates what our mind moves toward is necessarily karma.
I'll accept.
Take the subject, a person screaming, "Hey, look over here." It follows that they are karma because they are a type of causality that dictates where my mind is moving toward.
Why?
It follows that they are not a type of causality that dictates where my mind is moving toward.
I accept.
Okay, good. It follows that they are a type of causality that dictates where my mind is moving toward, because number one, they are a type of causality, and number two, they dictate where my mind is moving toward. A parenthesis here. This is something new that we haven't done before, breaking a reason in two, right? If I break a reason in two, what I'm doing is I'm giving Brett the opportunity to say either the first part of the reason is not established or the second part of the reason is not established. And he can do them, if he wants to do both, he can do the first one first, then come back and do the second one, right? But because I made a complex statement, I said, they are a type of causality that dictates where my mind is moving toward. He doesn't agree. So just to figure out where is it that he doesn't agree, I'm breaking it up and giving him the opportunity to be more specific, right? So let me say it again. Take the subject, a person screaming, "Hey, look over here." It follows that they are a type of causality that dictates where the mind is moving toward, because one, they are a type of causality, and two, they dictate where my mind is moving toward.
I accept both.
You accept both of them. Okay, so you accept, take the subject, a person screaming, "Look at me over here." It follows that they are a type of causality that determines where the mind is moving toward. Take the subject, a person screaming, "Hey, look over here." It follows that they are karma because they are a type of causality that dictates where the mind is moving toward.
Why?
Because they are a type of karma that dictates where the mind is moving. The type of causality dictates where the mind is moving toward.
Can you repeat that one more time?
Yes. Take the subject, a person screaming, "Hey, look over here." It follows that they are karma because they are a type of causality that dictates where the mind is moving toward.
The pervasion does not exist, or there's no pervasion.
It follows that it is not the case that whatever is a type of causality that dictates where the mind is moving toward is necessarily karma. That's not the case.
I accept.
Take the subject, a type of causality that dictates what the mind is moving toward. It follows that that is not the definition of karma.
One more time.
Take the subject, a type of causality that dictates where the mind is moving toward. It follows that that is not the definition of karma.
I accept.
Nice. Well done. Well done. Okay. Are you guys kind of getting the vibe, like getting the idea of what we're doing? Right? As the challenger at each point, when Brett accepts something that I think is incorrect, right, whether I'm right or wrong, I'm thinking, well, why do I accept it's incorrect? Well, here's what would follow from this, right? And flinging that as a consequence to see what he says, right? And then when he sees, oh yeah, I guess I was wrong about that, I keep moving back, right? To say, so if you accept that, then you accept this former thing. If you accept this former thing, you accept the thing before that, and we work our way back. Okay. I want to introduce one more thing. I keep going back and forth in my mind when to introduce it. It's a very small thing, but on the one hand, I find that it makes things easier. On the other hand, it's just a couple more things to remember. So that's why I keep going back and forth. But I'll introduce it and I'll leave it to you guys if you want to start using it or not. But something I just think is also like a lot of fun on top of everything else is that, when you're playing chess, there's two warnings that you give, at least two. I don't know chess very well, but like sometimes if you threaten the king, you have to say check, right? And if you threaten the king in such a way that there's no way out, you have to say checkmate, right? So if we call those warnings, there are warnings that you give in debate also, okay? As the challenger. The defender never gives warnings. The defender is just very humble and grateful. The challenger, there's warnings that the challenger can give. When the challenger this only happens if the challenger has just flung a consequence with a reason, a complete consequence with a reason. Let's take the subject blank, it follows that blank because blank, right? Then if it fits, you can give one of the following warnings. You can say, you have accepted the reason. You have accepted the reason means it's already established. The record shows that you accepted that the reason is established. You have accepted the reason, right? So watch, like let's say I say, take the subject water, it follows that it is wet. I accept. Take the subject water, it follows that it is liquid because it is wet. You have accepted the reason. Means you have accepted that water is wet. Now that what I just said is complete baloney, but you have accepted that water is wet in this example. So I say, you have accepted the reason, right? It's just to reorient the person, just to remind them like where they stand. Likewise, if the person has already accepted the pervasion, right? Then the warning is you have accepted the pervasion, right? So what the warning is, if I say you have accepted the reason, what I'm saying is if you say the reason is not established, you're going to get it sa. You have accepted the pervasion means if you say there's no pervasion, you're going to get it sa, right? And then the other one, the next one is you have accepted the reason and the pervasion, right? That means if you say the reason is not established, you'll get it sa. If you say there's no pervasion, you'll also get it sa. So the only way for you not to get it sa is for you to accept. And there's a final one, the fourth one, which is the most fun one of all, which is the three spheres. And you go like this. You make a sphere with your fist and you go make three circles, the three spheres. What that means is that you have accepted the reason is established, you have accepted that there is pervasion, and you have denied the thesis. So whatever you say now, you're going to get it sa. Right?
You say this after you say the consequence?
Yeah, so here's how it would go. We'll try it. Here's the challenger, here's the defender, okay? Play along with me. Take the subject sound. It follows that it is impermanent. Why? Take the subject sound. It follows that it is not impermanent. I accept. They've accepted that sound is not impermanent. Okay. Take the subject sound. It follows that it is produced. Wait, let me see. Hold on. Let me just think. Actually, I just lost myself in this. Okay, take the subject sound. It follows that it is produced. I accept. Okay, they've denied that sound is impermanent. They've accepted that sound is produced, right? Take the subject or forget the subject. It follows that whatever is produced is necessarily impermanent. I accept. Okay, they've said sound is not impermanent. Sound is produced. Whatever is produced is necessarily impermanent. So now I'm going to say, take the subject sound. It follows that it is impermanent because it is produced. The three spheres, right? You've accepted the reason. You've accepted that sound is produced. You've accepted the pervasion. You've accepted that whatever is produced is necessarily impermanent. And you've denied the thesis. You've said that sound is not impermanent. So when you open your mouth, whatever you say next, I'm going to say sa. Because you have to deny one of those three things. You only have three options. You can either say the reason is not established, there's no pervasion, and I accept. Right? If you say the reason is not established, sa, because earlier you said the reason was established. Say there's no pervasion, sa, because earlier you said there was pervasion. If you say I accept, sa, because earlier you had said the opposite. Right? So those are three warnings, and I find find it helpful because it just cues the person to remember what they said before. It doesn't change what they can still say whatever they want. It doesn't say you're not allowed to say this anymore. They can still say whatever they want, but it's like warning, right? Reminder, this is where you stood before. And again, this is something just the challenger adds, at the end of a consequence, if it pertains, right? Notice that even if you say the 3 spheres, if the person, whatever the person says, they're going to get it sa, but it doesn't mean that they're going to get it sa, sa, sa. It doesn't mean that the debate is about to be over, right? They'll only get sa, sa, sa if what they say, if they accept the thesis, and the thesis is the reverse of their root thesis. That's when they would get it sa, 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 but they could be the reverse of something else, right? So if we were debating, if your root thesis was sound is not impermanent, if that was your root thesis, then if I said take the subject sound, it follows that it is impermanent because it is produced, the 3 spheres. Well, now if you say I accept sa, 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 but if we're debating, take the subject sound, it follows that it is beautiful. That if that's what we're debating, and you accept that it's impermanent, it's just one sa, so to speak. Okay. We're low on time, but let's do breakout rooms nevertheless, just for a little bit. Let me see, 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, let's do breakout rooms for a few minutes. Wait, how did it? Oh yeah, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay. Okay. I'm just gonna do this at random in the order that the names show up.
What's the subject?
Very good question. My math, man, I don't know. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. What am I doing wrong? Oh, Sheila isn't showing up. That's what I'm doing wrong. I see. Okay, then Sheila and Jenna will stay here, and I'm going to. And I'll just step away for a little bit. Okay, I think that's the easiest way. Okay, what's the subject? Just thinking here what I want to do. How do the two compare? Love and gratitude. Or you know what, just for the sake of time, let's make it faster. Let's just say the subject, the challenger will say to the defender, it follows that whatever is love is necessarily gratitude. And it's up to the defender to accept or not. Whatever is love is necessarily gratitude. Okay? All right, let me just.
That's helpful.
Good. Okay, see you guys in 10 minutes.
I guess it's going to stick around and listen to us struggle through this. So you want to be challenger or defender? You want to flip a coin? Yeah, you're muted. You've got to unmute yourself, Sheila.
Sorry, I don't care. Do you have a preference?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I'll be the challenger. Okay, so what I said, posit.
It follows that whatever is
Oh, it
love.
follows that whatever is love is necessarily gratitude.
Why? No, I accept, but I don't know why. No, what can I say? There are several possibilities. Is that allowed?
I don't know. This is where I get all confused.
Let's see, I have to say
So
accept.
you say,
I have to say accept. Or you have to say the subject. It follows that there are several possibilities. There are 3, there are 4. Let's try 4 possibilities.
okay, then what do I say?
I say why. I guess I say why.
And I say posit.
I'm not sure what to do. See, now Gus can see the problem.
This is where I get confused. I have no idea how to format this.
There's several possibilities. There are 4 possibilities. Let's try 4 possibilities.
Okay, so
It's necessarily gratitude. No, why? Yeah, I'll say why. I'll just say why.
okay, follows that whatever, name something that is gratitude and love, whatever is love is gratitude. Is that what I say next?
Yeah, then you say, so then it follows that whatever is love is not necessarily gratitude. You say the opposite. If I say why, you say the opposite.
Okay, whatever is love is not necessarily gratitude.
I accept. That's the thesis.
Then,
Or the whatever it is.
see, then I don't know what do I ask next?
So you can say, posit an example of whatever.
All right, as an example of something that is love, but is not necessarily gratitude.
Love is not necessarily gratitude. Kindness. The subject kindness is love, but it is not necessarily gratitude. I'm not sure I can say the consequence. No, the subject love, that's all I say. The subject kindness.
So it follows that kindness is not necessarily gratitude.
I accept.
So then I go, stop. Or do I say something else?
No, you can say, so you can take a subject, I don't know. You can,
so,
consequence, actually. The subject kindness. You can create consequences with that, I guess.
so it follows that whatever is not love is necessarily gratitude.
Oh, is that whatever is not love is necessarily. Why?
It follows whatever is love is necessarily gratitude. That's the first we started.
Why?
Follows that whatever is love is necessarily kindness.
Why?
This isn't fair. It follows whatever is love is
Use the
necessarily what? Say what?
Well, I was gonna say to try to use the whole consequence, the subject da-da-da, it follows that X, the short consequence or the long consequence, or the 3-part consequence. The subject whatever it the subject, it follows that it is B because C. I mean, I'm just offering, I don't know. I mean,
So it'd be like, whatever is love is not necessarily gratitude because it is kindness. Almost like I gotta go back and start over.
I accept.
So there's kindness is necessary. So.
But the subject, actually, I don't accept that way. Whatever is love, no. Well, not exactly. Close. To what I accept. The subject, kindness, it follows that it is love because it is subject love. Subject kindness, it follows that it is love because it is not necessarily, because love is not necessarily gratitude. So I would do it.
Well, switch it and you'd be the challenger. Let's see if that makes more sense.
It won't be any better because I can't do it. It's a kibitz when you're the defender and to do the challenger. It follows that whatever is love is necessarily gratitude.
I accept.
So then subject, let's see. The subject, let's try this. The subject, infatuation. It follows that it is love because it is gratitude.
Subject, infatuation.
Yeah, I don't
It's
know.
love because it is gratitude. Is that what you just said? Why?
Subject, infatuation. Let's see. Why? Okay, so the subject, infatuation, it follows that it is love because it is not gratitude.
This is not. What was that last word?
Not gratitude.
Oh, it's not gratitude.
I guess I'm not doing that right. I'm not doing this right. I'm just saying nonsense. Let's try something else. What is an example of gratitude? Let's see. It follows that saying thank you for somebody handing you anything is love because it is gratitude.
I accept.
Okay, so let's see. So it follows that a policeman handing you a ticket, a parking ticket, it follows, oh, I guess you wouldn't say thank you.
But you wouldn't be grateful. There would be no gratitude, even if you could say thank you.
So let's see, I don't know how to challenge this. Follows that whatever is love is necessarily gratitude. So it follows that, all right, let's take my example. It follows that kindness, any act of kindness is love because it is gratitude.
So could I say why then?
Yeah, you can say why, but that's a ta. I think, or maybe not yet.
But then do you
So
respond?
then
And
it follows that, what I say, that any act of kindness is love, because it is not gratitude. Is that right?
So then what do I say? There's no pervasion?
All right. How was it?
Totally confusing.
Confusing, yeah. Yeah. It's a little bit like learning how to read, right? Like in the beginning, it's like, how on earth do you tell the E apart from the F? Like, you know, like I remember when I was learning to write, I remember that the E was like a line with like a line down with a bunch of lines, but I could never remember how many, you know. So any questions that arise as such?
Yeah. If so, as part of it, if you've got to, as the challenger, you've asked for a definition of love and a definition of gratitude. And the definitions you've got that are real for that's that person's definition of love and gratitude, and they've given you definitions that mean they are necessarily the same.
If the definitions imply that they are the same.
Yeah, then is that kind of the end of it? Or if you know, or if you feel that the definitions are, so for example, the definition of gratitude being feeling kindness, I don't think that's the definition of gratitude, but that definition meant that love and gratitude are exactly the same. So therefore, I don't know where to go from there.
Sure, that's a great question. Well, so on the one hand, it's like I was saying at the beginning, if that's what the person means by love or gratitude, then that's what the person means by love or gratitude. So here's a couple of things you could do. The first thing is to make sure that that's really what they mean, you know. So like think of some example, like because if you disagree, there's some reason that if you're the challenger disagree, there's some reason you disagree. So can you think of an example of love that wouldn't be a feeling of kindness, or an example of a feeling of kindness that wouldn't be love, you know? And if so, you can say, take the subject blah, it follow, you know, take the subject, you know, well, I mean, can you think of something that would be love but not a feeling of kindness, or vice versa?
Yeah, like the example we were thinking of but couldn't then bring it back was a child who's forced to wash the car again and again and again to teach them work ethic. Like that's probably not kind from the child's perspective, but it is, they will be grateful for it when they're older, and it is an indication of love from the parent.
So what you would do then as a challenger, say, take the subject, a child forced to wash the car over and over and over for the sake of developing these values. It follows that it is love. And say the person accepts. It follows that it is kindness. You know, say if the person doesn't accept, there's the crack in the chink in the armor. But if the person does accept, and you think it's not kindness, you know, like there's a few things you can do. It says, it follows that it is not kindness because the child hates it, or whatever is your reason. Or you could say, it follows that it's kindness because, and you could hear their point, why do they think that it's kindness, right? That's one approach that you could take to the whole thing. A completely different approach that you can take to the whole thing is, let's say that you ask them what's the definition of love, and they say it's a feeling of kindness, right? A different approach you could take is to say, okay, you could say to yourself in your own mind, oh, okay, fine, that's not what I meant, that's not what I was going for, right? So you can think, what is my definition? Like, again, all of this is in your mind. What is my definition of love, right? What might you say? And I won't hold you to it, but just for now, like, what might you say?
Deep feelings for someone.
Deep feelings for someone. Okay, so you could say, okay, forget love. How do the two compare? Deep feelings for someone and gratitude. You see, because now you're getting at what it is that you care about. See what I'm saying? Other questions?
The comment, we forgot to ask each other for definitions.
Sure. You don't have to. It's not like a rule that you have to. That's one of the things you can do, you know? it can be helpful, like it can be helpful because otherwise you might talk past each other for quite a while, you know, but it's not like a rule that you have to ask that first or anything like that. But yeah. Yeah, but I think, I don't know, at least for me personally, I tend to gravitate towards that. Like I feel like that's like a good, it's just like good strategy, I guess. Because then we can be clear on what it is we're talking about. Yeah, so the defender, no, I guess my current stance on it is because there's like, there's debate on like which is harder, to be the defender or to be the challenger, right? And Daniel Perdue says it's harder to be the defender. And I used to think he was crazy. Now I've come around, I can see where he's coming from, but I think it's my current stand. I think it's definitely harder to learn to be the challenger, you know, because it's the challenger, you're doing more strategizing, as it were. As the defender, you just have to memorize what are the answers that I'm allowed to give, basically. Basically, you know. As the challenger, you have to think, okay, how do I get from here to there? Like it takes more creativity. And we can get there. We can get there. And so as the challenger, again, remember what you're thinking of is, this is like a long-term strategy. Like I need to get to the opposite of their root thesis. I need to get them to accept the opposite of their root thesis. How do I get there? And along the way, you can try many different things. And anytime they give an answer that you disagree with, then you can figure out, like, you know, you could say, well, here's a consequence of that. What do you say to that? You know? Or you can say, why? Why do you think that? You know, like the subject lies, blah, because, right? And if they say something that you agree with, but that you're not convinced that they fully get what they're saying, then you could just play devil's advocate in a similar way, right? Is that take the definition, take the subject karma, follows it, composite the definition, I accept, pause it. It is a mental factor that moves the mind by its own volition to its object. Let's say I happen to think that's correct, you know, but I'm like, do you really get what you're saying? You know, so like, take the subject karma, it follows that it is a mental factor. I accept. Take the subject karma, it follows that it only lasts one moment because it is a mental factor. You know, is the person gonna be like, wait, how can that be? You know, if so, I'm helping them. But anyway, okay. All right. Well, I can't recommend enough that you guys kind of keep in touch and try to find times to practice. But of course, within the bounds of what's realistic for each of us. But let's close for now with dedication. And let me also let's do a general dedication, and then for anybody who wants to stick around a few more minutes, we can also do the prayers for Lama Zopa Rinpoche's swift return for anybody who feels connected to that. But just take a moment first to think. That everything we did today has some impact on us. It kind of acts as a condition for us to move in certain directions in our lives. Weak or strong in whatever direction it may be, but we think may only act as conditions for us to move towards compassion, loving kindness, wisdom, ability to exercise the best paths to be of benefit to everybody. Thank you. Thank you very much. So for anybody who would like to stick around, let me share my screen and we can do let me see. I have to navigate to it. Okay. Can you see that okay? Okay. I don't know if this is the most up-to-date one of all, but we can do these ones. These are very good. So this is by His Holiness. Fearless teacher and assembly of children of the victorious ones, Shravakas Pratyeka Buddhas, victorious Losang, father and sons, together with your lineage, all the objects of refuge of the infinite lands, please now bestow the virtue and goodness to accomplish this prayer. In holding and spreading the Muni's precious and complete teachings, through explanation and practice, you wore the armor of patience that is never discouraged. Incomparable, venerable Guru, to you I make request. Sole gateway through which all the happiness emerge, while striving exclusively for the welfare of the victorious one's teachings and mother living beings, you suddenly departed to peace. At this I lost hope. Nevertheless, through the undeceiving truth of the blessings of the ocean of the three jewels and the great waves of the mind generation of the children of the victorious ones, may the smile of a new reincarnation swiftly beam in glory for fortunate disciples. This is from Kadrola. Guru, think of me. Guru, consider me. Gracious Guru, care for me. Root Guru, most gracious and kind, do not deprive us of your compassionate refuge. Listen and consider this heartfelt prayer made by a tormented disciple. Guru, you embody the blessings of the Buddhas of the three times. You may rest in great bliss, equipoise within the dhatu of unimpeded luminosity. Yet the little dance of your loving compassion can emanate in myriad ways. The swift appearance of your magical wisdom, the Rupakaya. The time has come for you to care for us once again with your affectionate compassion. I invoke you, I call upon you. I implore you on behalf of all beings. Arise, arise, arise from the Dharmakaya. Do not rest in Kachara or other pure celestial realms. Rather, to benefit the Buddhist teachings and all living beings, swiftly return to the southern continent to spread the Buddha Dharma of study and realization. Quickly return to guide us poor, wretched beings. Such is the desperate cry of us, your disciples. Return so that we may actually behold your presence and receive the blessings of your enlightened body, speech, and mind. All violations, errors, mistakes, and broken samaya that we have made in relation to your spontaneously present awakened body, speech, mind, and activity, through our being baffled, confused, and conceiving things in erroneous ways, for the luminous emptiness of your three kayas, of everything auspicious, the supreme auspiciousness. May there be the auspiciousness of emptiness and compassion conjoined, and the auspiciousness of a timely meeting between master and disciples. Through the force of the truth of unchanging suchness, may the unmistaken incarnation return quickly. This lament was made by me, a Dakini with pure faith in Samaya, her eyes filled with tears of sorrow. May these wishes of the beggar woman be fulfilled through the blessings of the deities of the three roots. And the act of perceiving all dissolve within the expanse, the blissful clarity of suchness. Ah. Patient in bearing the hardships of spreading the teachings of the Muni in general and the teachings of the victorious Jamgon in hundreds of directions. Lord of Dharma, holding the three, please quickly return as the glory of the pure. You held the teachings of explanation and practice with great asceticism. Unable to bear that transmigratory beings are confused by the darkness of suffering, through your great loving kindness, you skillfully led them to happiness. Unparalleled son of the teachings, please return quickly. Beautified by the ornament of supreme patience and increasing the practice of the supreme authentic teachings of the victorious one through listening, reflection, and meditation, guide of all transmigratory beings along the perfect path, true and perfect pure Guru, please return quickly. By the Lilung Rinpoche. The lamp of the Geddon teachings, the supreme refuge, Lama Zopa, has departed in order to rouse to the Dharma disciples to cling to permanence. Supreme Being, you took upon yourself the Kadam teacher's way of life and were bound to it night and day, greatly benefiting the teachings and transmigratory beings. Great master of the teachings, supreme guide for East and West, hidden yogi Lama Tupten Zopa, unrivaled Lama Zopa, you took His Holiness the Sovereign Lord of the Victorious Ones as your crown and followed all his instructions. Benefactor Lama Zopa, for the many public and personal needs of Tibetans and others, you opened the vase of resources and cleared away the suffering of hardship. One of great mind, Lama Zopa, you held helpless and voiceless animals with a mind of loving kindness and were their holy savior and protector. Siddha Lama Zopa, Lord of the ocean of mandalas, with the wings of emptiness and compassion, you crossed the waters of the generation and completion stages. Lama Tupten Zopa, great hidden yogi, ornament of the activities of the Gedan teachings, in truth, the great son of the victorious ones, having thought of me and other transmigratory beings of the degenerate age from your seat of lotus and sun at the heart of Sangha Yeshe, may the jewel that fulfills all wishes, emanating again with the brilliance of 10,000 suns, smile swiftly and without obstacles to our eyes filled with tears of faith. And we can also end with the dedication that Lama Zopa Rinpoche always recommended. And we can think something along the lines of, due to the 3-time merits accumulated by myself, all the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas, and all universal sentient beings, who are completely empty of inherently existing from their own side, but which definitely exist as dependent arisings. May I, who am completely empty of inherently existing from my own side, but which definitely exist as a dependent arising, quickly attain the state of perfect enlightenment, which is completely empty of inherently existing from its own side, but which definitely exists as a dependent arising, in order to bring all universal sentient beings who are completely empty of existing from their own side, inherently, but which definitely exist as dependent arisings, to that perfectly enlightened state, which is completely empty of inherently existing from its own side, but which definitely exists as a dependent arising. May I do that by myself alone, which is completely empty of inherently existing from its own side, but which definitely exists as a dependent arising. Thank you so much. Let me stop. All right, everybody. Thank you very much. I hope everybody has a great week, and I'll stick around to talk to you, Sheila. And I hope to see everybody next time.
Thank you very